Hi everyone, this video is all about a method called CUBE. CUBE can be used in any subject to help you write the correct information and do the correct thing in an exam question. Any exam question, from a Year 7 exam question up to a Level 3 BTEC or A-level exam question, GCSE exam question, anything. You might be watching this video because you are a student who's revising for an assessment or exam, or you might be a teacher showing it to your class or wanting to find out how you can use it to help raise your students' grades. And what's wonderful about this method is it works for everyone, because it's not about how much you know about the subject, it's making sure that what you write down is really efficient and gets the maximum grades. It cuts out waffle and it stops you doing the wrong thing. So I'm sure any GCSE English student knows your teacher will always say, don't write about language in the structure and structure in the language question. Well, if you cube them, you're never going to make that mistake. And there's lots and lots of subjects where people are saying, well, my students, they know the topic, but then they answer the wrong element of that topic in their work. And CUBE stops that happening, so it's really useful. So what is CUBE? CUBE stands for circle the command words, underline the keywords, box any tricky or subject-specific vocabulary, and eliminate the excess. So the first thing you do is you circle the command words. Command words are the words telling you what to do. You might find them as describe, explain, analyze, state, list, those kind of words. They're telling you how to write down your answer. The next thing you do is you underline tier 2 words, key words. Those are formal, slightly more developed words than the kind of chatty words you might use on the playground. Examples might be promote, rights, worship, united, unfortunately. The kind of language we use when we are writing for academic and work purposes. Then you do a box around any tricky or subject-specific vocabulary, tier 3 words. You can see the words are like a pyramid. At the top are very difficult words, and at the bottom are very childish words. And at the top of this pyramid are tier 3 words. Words like photosynthesis, onomatopoeia, water table, ketosis, those kind of words. And then finally you eliminate the excess. Are there any words that you really don't need and are in there, and then maybe they're a bit waffly, you don't need to look at them. Okay, so next, here's a question. This is an English question. I took this question because I'm an English teacher, so I had it, but this method will work with any subject. Now this is a 20-mark question. The student has to do a lot in this question. So let's look at this. The student has just read an extract from the novel To Kill a Mockingbird. In this section of the novel, the narrator Scout's father, who is called Atticus Finch, and everyone thinks of him as a kind of respectable lawyer, and kind of like nerdy, geeky image. He always wears a smart suit, neat glasses, really not a kind of outdoors heroic guy. And Scout thinks he's quite boring and thinks he's too geeky for her. She's a bit of a tomboy. And in this section, a dog with rabies comes into the town, and if it bites anyone, they will die, because in those days you would definitely die if you caught rabies. And the town police officer is too afraid to shoot the dog. So Atticus takes the gun for him in a moment of excitement, walks up and manages to shoot the dog before it can bite anyone. And so he becomes a hero. And then we realise that he's always been like this, and before he was a lawyer, he had a reputation as a kind of a crack shot and a bit of a dangerous wild guy. So it's a kind of turning point in his character. So this is about a 2-page extract. The students would read this, and then they'd have a number of questions, and it would lead up to this one. This is the 20-mark question. It says, focus on, he looks more sick than anything, to the end. A student said, as the story continues, we realise that Atticus is more interesting and formidable than we first expected. To what extent do you agree? In your response, you could consider your own impressions of Atticus, evaluate how the writer conveys Atticus's character development, support your response with references to the text. It's a big question. It's asking for lots of different things. And it's a 20-mark question, so it's several paragraphs. Without doing cube, it would be hard to decide what to include and what to leave out, and the paragraphs could end up waffling on and on. So the first part of cube is circle the command words. So here we have focus. So focus tells us where we're looking in the text. Focus on he looks more sick than anything to the end. The student then knows they can do a line or a circle around that bit of the story. They know that's what they're looking at to answer the question. Then it says, consider your own impressions of Atticus. We've got this statement here, so you've got to think, how does Atticus come across? Okay, I'm going to decide, I'm going to consider. And here's the real crux of the question: evaluate how the writer conveys Atticus' character development. So then you've got to evaluate and look at the methods and look at quotes to see, why do I think this? Why do I agree or why do I disagree with the statement? And then finally, support your responses with reference to the text. It has to be supported. You can't just be thinking whatever you want. There has to be some plausible evidence in there, and in English that means quotes. So, one word of advice. Depending on the subject, the command words will vary slightly. A big example is describe. Describe in science is completely different to describe in English. Describe in English means write using creative writing methods, write at least 5 paragraphs, do a plan. Describe in science means methodically go through what you see, what the information is. It's a very factual description. So make sure that you know what those command words mean. So here I've thought about, and I've already talked through it, but I've thought about what these mean in English, and then I know what I am supposed to do. And you can see here I'm remembering a sentence stem. In my English lesson I can remember, okay, whenever we talk about the word consider in the 20-mark question, my topic sentence is, yes, I agree, he is presented as, because, and I know that I should start my paragraph like that. It's a little wake-up call. Next thing, I need to know what I am focusing on, what I'm considering, what I'm evaluating. I know I've got to do those things. So cube, I underline the tier 2 vocabulary, the important stuff. So he looks more sick than anything. It's important to know where I'm focusing. But the key bit is that as the story continues, we realize that Atticus is interesting and formidable, and we agree. The sneaky thing is they don't say agree or disagree, they say agree, and they want you to agree to some extent. There's a little help in that question. Yeah? If the story is about a guy who saves the town, it's not a story about him being weak. So always look for those little clues. So now I know what I am considering. I am considering that Atticus is interesting and formidable as the story continues. I'm agreeing with it. So when I do my evaluation, I need to say, yes, I can prove that Atticus is interesting and formidable, and I'm going to prove it with a range of quotes and say what those quotes are. Then I look at my tier 3 information, my difficult words and my subject-specific words. So here's a difficult word, formidable. Formidable means that you are strong in your character, that you are not to be crossed, that you are confident. Okay? If you didn't know that, by reading the piece you could probably make that connection, that it doesn't mean weak, it means strong. And you do need to talk about how he is interesting and formidable, interesting and strong. And there's another bit of technical language here, character development. And that's important because we're talking about how a character develops. At the start, he's Scout's kind of geeky, nerdy dad who's a lawyer and works in an office and has a smart suit and neat glasses. And at the end, he's thrown down his glasses, they're smashed on the ground, he's pulled out a gun and he's saved the town from a mad rabid dog that is going to attack them. He's clearly become a lot more interesting and a lot more formidable, brave, confident. And finally, I cross out anything that I don't need. So for example, I don't need to know a student said this, because it doesn't matter who said it, they're just giving you a sentence to agree with. So I can cross out a student says. Actually, a student didn't. It was an examiner sat in an office, decide, and they would say a student said. In your response, you could. Well, I don't need that because I know I'm obviously going to use the bullet points, because in an exam you always use the bullet points. So I crossed that out, especially the word could. Oh, you could if you want. What they mean is that you could if you want to get top grades. So it's not could, it's will, it's would. Yeah, you're going to do that. So you cross out the stuff that could kind of be irrelevant. So we don't care who said that, and we don't care about could. We are going to do those things. So now we have an answer that we've cubed. We've circled the command words, and you can see that helps plan the answer. First I'm reading by focusing on this bit. Then I'm thinking by using my topic sentence, yes, I agree that, blah, 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 blah. Then I'm evaluating by saying Harper Lee chooses the personification da-da-da to show da-da-da. And I'm supporting it because I'm not just going to say that, sorry, my mouse is all over the place today. I'm not just going to say, oh yeah, Harper Lee uses personification and this gives a strong effect that he has made the whole atmosphere of the town electrical and like slow motion because he's such a formidable character, and not put in a quote. You know, I'm going to put in a quote. And then I know that I've done all of those steps, and I'm remembering my teacher has said do it 3 to 4 times, so I just repeat that process. And I've got here that I need to talk about him being both interesting and formidable. That's the hard word. And I've worked out, I've remembered, or I've worked out from the context that that means a strong person, not a weak person. And I'm looking here at his character development. So I'm looking here about how he's getting more and more powerful. And there we go. By doing those circles, I'm going to write an answer where I am confident where I'm going to get my information from. I'm confident about that because I've got that. I know that I need to think about whether I agree or you disagree, but in this case I'm saying agree because I've looked closely at the question, because it says consider. I'm going to consider whether I agree. Oh, sorry. And I know that I need to evaluate against a hypothesis and statement, and I know that because I have underlined my hypothesis statement, and here's the word evaluate, so it's pretty clear what I have to do there. And I know that I need to consider the character of Atticus and no one else, and how he changes and develops to become more interesting, because character development. And I also need to mention that he is becoming a strong and forceful character because I recognise that there was a significant word formidable there. Now that's a lot I have to do because it's a 20-mark question. You could do this cube method with a 5-mark question, with a 4-mark question, with a 15-mark question, and it will be more or less complicated, but it's particularly valuable for these very complicated questions where there's a lot you have to do. And this, if you do this, you know what to do now. You know what to do. You're not going to waffle on with loads of nonsense. You know exactly what to write. Now you can do this with any subject, but cube is one of the most valuable ways of preparing you for an exam. And just before I finish, I'll go back to what it stands for. C, circle the command words. U, underline the keywords. B, box any tricky or subject-specific vocabulary. And E, eliminate excess or, red herrings as we call them, things that you don't need to think about. So remember, this isn't just an English revision video. This is for any subject. If you use cube, it will help you write about the correct things in an exam. Thank you for listening.